what sounds should native Spanish speakers focus on, or intonation if you want to add that, to reduce their accent when improving their English pronunciation?
Okay. So with Spanish speakers, it's different. They need to work on the vowels too, just like everybody else for the most part. Um, but there are, in my opinion, a much larger number of sound replacements that they need to get into with the consonants. So, because Spanish lacks some of the consonants that we have, and then they have different versions of other consonants we have. So, for example, when a Spanish speaker says the word beber, which means to drink, they don't say beber, beber. Matter of fact, Americans sound very much like gringos when we say beber, because it's like, that first B is very different from the second B, which is between vowels. So it shouldn't sound as strong. So, for example, instead of beber, they do beber, 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 where the lips almost completely close, but they don't actually get there. So Spanish speakers don't realize oftentimes that they use that other sound a lot in English. A lot of Spanish speakers, from my experience, don't even know they use that sound. They think all of their B's are the same, and they're not really aware of that distinction. So they don't know if they don't know that they're using it in Spanish, they don't know they're using it in English. So that's a really quick way for them to already improve their accent.
And then also, like you had mentioned earlier, the B and the V often will get like changed or
Mm,
like used instead of
yeah.
the other.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. So most Spanish speakers don't even have a V sound at all. They don't use it. So I think that what I heard before I started doing the work that I do is that English teachers would tell Spanish speakers, okay, just you need to learn that B is B, V is V, but they didn't know Spanish speakers have that third sound on the side. And I think that's more the problem than B versus V. I think it's more about, oh, by the way, we need to get rid of that extra sound, and then remember that the full B you need to only use on B's because they would use it for V as well. But it's not about B versus V confusion. It's that they have those two other sounds basically.
hmm See, I've never like caught on to that little like subtlety of there that of having that in between sound, but yeah, that's so true.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then
It can make me sound a lot better in Spanish, for example, than if I use the regular B all the time.
yeah, no, that's so true. I think yeah, like I think I've noticed, but I just never like put my finger on what was
Mm.
going on when there was that like that mixed. I always called it like the mixed BV, but like that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
But no, you're
Yeah.
right. Oh. Um, do you have any other sounds that you would say that a Spanish speaker should focus on?
Yeah. So, real quick, I wanted to add about that sound.
Mm.
I heard that it came from kind of a W sound as well. I heard that it had origins there because it's not close to the V at all, but it's like v, v. So it's almost a BW in a way. So I think that um that's pretty interesting. That's something to be aware of.
That's true.
And other sounds, I would say the G is one of them. The way that they pronounce G. In Spanish, they also have another version of the G sound where we get really, really close to the sound, but we don't go for it 100%. So, normally, when you make a G sound, the back of the tongue goes up and it pushes up against the roof of your mouth. But theirs gets really, really, really close and doesn't actually push it, and not on every G. It's only on certain G's that are in the middle of a phrase between vowels in that environment. So, for example, again, a Spanish speaker might say again. So they need to learn to always use the same G sound, regardless of whether it's between vowels or at the beginning of a phrase.
And I've never really explicitly picked up on that until I saw your video on the G and Spanish speakers. So I will also
Mhm.
link that down below for those who are watching the replay. Yeah, the G.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm guessing you're going to say the J sound as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I actually like to teach ch, j, sh, and zh all together. I think that Spanish speakers should work on all four of those because, and also S and Z. I kind of categorize them all together because they're very similar challenges that they have with all of them. So when it comes to the ch versus j, um, they're very similar sounds. Those two are extremely similar, but j is voiced. So, for example, when you say gigantic, you need to use your voice versus chocolate doesn't use the voice. But in terms of the articulation, it can be very complicated because when you're talking about ch, it's like you're doing sh, but you need to add kind of a T before it. And if they're not articulating the T the same way, it's going to come out differently as well in the ch. So usually we have to work on T and D before we can even touch ch and j, because even with j, you have a D before the j. So those all go together.
Yeah.
Everything builds.
Yeah, I know. It's so true. Hey. And for those who are listening, J would be like the J sound.
Yes.
Sh would be the CH. I'm hoping that the sound comes out properly on my mic. I don't have a nice mic like you. And then like sh sound would be SH. And then what else
Yes.
did you say?
So it would be, yes, also je like in vision or casual.
Yeah, good. I just wanted to say that just in case some people are like, I hear it, but I can't really imagine what it looks like in a word. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've really noticed among Spanish speakers. Is there anything else that you can think of?
Definitely rhythm as well. Let's see. Another thing could be, well, of course, the vowels. One thing that's hard for Spanish speakers is a lot of the words where we use the vowel, as in cup, are spelled with an O, which is a nightmare. For example, government, they'll say government, or coverage, they say coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's an O, so you would expect either ah or O, but it's actually It's so confusing. So the best thing they can do for that is memorize the words where it is spelled with O, and just kind of repeat them often and focus on it for a little while, and then they get used to it. But unfortunately, there's not a hard and fast rule that they can use every time to know that.
And especially them coming from a language where each each letter is basically a sound that's pretty clear. For us, English isn't
Yeah.
easy to read it and know how to pronounce it intuitively.
Yeah.
And then the E sound, I sound, I find it to be something that a lot of Spanish speakers struggle with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it has so much to do with the mouth posture as well. I don't like to touch any vowels until we kind of rewrite the way that their mouths work in general, because I'll save it for that topic, but yeah.
All right. So is that okay if I go to the next question?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So you are speaking with an English teacher that is looking for a way to help a native Spanish speaker improve their English. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, so with Spanish speakers, definitely, I would say that another thing you can tell them is don't try to speak the language with your lips. Don't try to, when you're trying to make yourself understood, a lot of times a Spanish speaker will try to tense up the front of their face, doing, I have to go, thinking that that's better articulation and that will make them more understood. When you want to articulate more, you need to articulate more with your tongue than with the front of your face and with your lips, especially on the vowels. So if you add tension here, it actually works against you. So I would say that an English teacher should tell their Spanish speaking students, you don't want to try to speak the language with your lips. Essentially, you need to articulate with more assertive tongue movements instead. And also, they need to open their mouths more on the open vowels, especially.